Everyone, my name is Payal Tandon. I will be your host today in this webinar in which we're going to talk about how is it that you can master quant utilizing expert AI. And in specific, we are going to be talking about algebra. And more specifically, we'll be dealing with questions from linear inequalities, quadratic inequalities, and absolute value concepts. Why? Because these are um, three of the most fretted topics under quant, uh, under algebra. So if you all can take learnings from these difficult topics and implement in your study plan, then that means that this kind of learning environment and learning architecture is truly suitable for you. Okay, so that's going to be my agenda in this session to demonstrate to you that how is it that you should be thinking about your quant preparation utilizing examples from algebra and particularly these concepts that I just mentioned. Okay, now I'm joining you all from Bangalore. I'm one of the co-founders of e-GMAT, and I am the primary course architect for everything that you see on e-GMAT platform. So why don't you all say hello and tell us where you're joining from, what are your expectations from this session, and yeah, let's talk about that. All right. And in the meanwhile, I'm just going to go over the results over here. When do you plan to take the test? So it seems like a number of you are still about more than 30 days away from taking your test, okay, which means you guys have ample amount of time. So you will be able to incorporate the learnings from here. So hi, Abhilash. Hi, Vani. Hi, Navdeep. Tharun from Tamil Nadu. Sai from Abhishek from Mumbai. Okay. I want to convert my 80 to 85 percentile to 95 percentile. Good, very specific here. Very nice. I really like that specificity as to where you are at and where do you want to get to. Okay, so having those metrics are very important. So next thing for you, Abhishek, is you have to understand what that 80 to 85 percentile is in terms of accuracy in hard questions, and how does that 95% percentile translate into accuracy in hard questions, because that's the metric that you will need to track. So really good. All right. So before I get into the heart of this session, which is, talking about algebra in particular, I want to talk about your GMAT study plan. Okay, that is very, very important. Why? Because, every I tell all my students, you need to consider your GMAT as a project, because till the time you don't consider your GMAT prep as a project, you will not be you will not be in that mindset to invest the right kind of time and effort in creating a solid plan. Until the time you don't have a solid plan, you will not be able to execute that as a successful project. So first and foremost, we're going to go over what should your GMAT plan look like, and I'm going to give you a demo of one. And then, everyone, regardless of whether you are existing e-GMAT student or not, would be able to create that study plan. Okay. Right, so we'll talk about that. Then we'll go into the heart of the session, which is going to be the largest portion of the session. In that as well, we're going to break it up into two parts. One would be your conceptual feedback, right? Where you are at in terms of your conceptual skills. You will get detailed feedback on that. Then we'll move on to the next level, wherein you will be applying process skills. So you'll get an understanding of, once you build solid conceptual understanding, what is the next level of application that you need to learn. And then we'll go into solving really hard questions. So it's going to be a very interesting session. There's always a lot of learnings that come from every stage of this webinar. So let's get started here. Now, every time, and sorry about these, I did not get rid of these annotations. So let's get rid of those here and get my pen. Okay. All right, so when I'm talking, I am looking at my screen. So that's the reason, and my camera is right up there. So I'm still looking at all of you over here. So again, that's where I may not be able to make eye contact here, okay? So here, again, I want you all to visualize your journey. The first thing that you have to do is always create create your solid study plan. That's what we're going to do, and that takes about 10 minutes once you've taken a mock test. So I'm going to tell you that. Then the next thing is you learn concepts and application, which is what we call as stage 1 of learning. Again, this is e-GMAT lingo. Then what you have is you master application, which is what we call as stage 2 of learning, which is another term for cementing. Then you do test readiness, and again, very, very critical step. And test readiness has a very set recipe. Okay, it should not be done only at the end of all your prep. It needs to be weaved into your entire prep, which means that after you're done with verbal, you need to do test readiness. After you're done with quant, you need to do test readiness. After you're done with DI, in fact, while you're doing DI, there are two steps, two stages of test readiness. Again, all of this recipe is built into the entire program that we have. Okay. Now, a number of you obviously spend the time in learning the concepts. That goes without saying. Okay, no instructor has to remind any student that, oh, you need to learn the concepts. But where students falter is at the point wherein they are not able to get a handle on how do I learn application and how do I build my skill. Likewise, this is the step, master application, which is where students do not spend time. These two things, what happens is that students learn the concept and then they go blindly into solving hundreds of questions without having a set agenda in mind, without having those set metrics that you need to monitor. Right, so that is why people falter during their prep. That is the reason why either they take too long to prepare, or they do not, they have to take multiple attempts. Right, so we are going to talk about how your study plan will take care of that, and how knowing the right metrics and tracking the right metrics is going to help you get to your target score in that single shot. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go into my demo screen and I am going to show you. Yes, so let's go into the demo screen, and I'm going to share my screen here. So give me just a second. All right. Okay. Okay. Can everyone see the screen that says ELE test 245? Welcome back. Can everyone see that? Type in the chat box here. Perfect. Okay. So this is an existing study plan. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Focus Edition Study Planner, and then you're going to, I'm going to edit this. I'm going to actually delete this plan. Okay. And we're going to create a brand new study plan. Okay. So create your study plan, and I'm going to set, so create your study plan. I need to have a target score. Let's set a target score of 685. We'll be a little bit modest here, 97th percentile. Now you need to have your current baseline, okay? I'm going to take 575, and again, either an actual GMAT attempt or an MBA.com test or Sigma X mock. I'm going to select Sigma X mock. And again, what this helps you do is this helps you visualize where you are at. You're at a 575, you want to get to a 685. What does 575 mean? It means 62 percentile, and from 62 percentile, you have to go to 97th percentile. So this translation continues to happen throughout this study plan generation tool. Okay. Now, next, what you're going to do is you're going to put your current sectional scores, and Sigma X mock or your official mock is going to give you that. So let's go with verbal 77, we'll go with quant 82, and we'll go with data insights at 77. Okay. Now the system is smart enough to say that if you are saying that you are at 575, this means that in verbal you are, and if you're telling me that in verbal you're 77 and quant you're 82, this means that data insight score has to be between 75 and 79. So the system has all these checks built into it so that you don't really put in incorrect information. Okay. Now what the system has done is it has evaluated all these 105 probable paths of going from 575 to 685. And from those paths, it has selected this as the most optimal path to the target score in order to get to that target score of 685. Now, how has the system done that? It has understood the strengths in verbal, 82, right? And which is why it has increased the quant score to 88. So basically it's utilizing, it's maximizing your strength. Then it's taken your verbal score and taken it to 83. Remaining whatever points are required have been put into data insights. Now if you want at this time to select an alternate split, it is going to give you two alternates, and it will actually also allow you to manually enter your own scores. Let's say over here I say, I really want to get to that 85 in verbal, and quant, let's say 86, and then here I'm going to put 82. So it is, so you can actually put in whatever target scores you want, and the system is going to evaluate those as well, and then tell you, look, this is 100% more challenging, right? Because here what I'm doing is I am taking my weaker section of the two, and I am increasing and I'm maximizing that. So the system understands that. So here what I'm going to do is go with what the recommended suggestion was. Again, the point of showing that to you was to show the kind of intelligence built into this. Okay. Now what's happening is it is helping you visualize what your journey, what your independent milestones are, sectional milestones are. In verbal, you have to go from 33 percentile to that 86th percentile. Okay. In quant, the jump is shorter. Okay. In data insights, again, this is the jump. Now, what does that mean in terms of the time investment? Okay. Look at this over here. Verbal, it's going to take 94 hours based on the information that it has right now. Okay. Quant, again, the jump isn't that much. And what you see is, but still there are 77 hours required. And this is very important here. Even though the jump in quant is less as compared to the jump in verbal, if you look at the green part over here, the stage 3 part, 20 hours are required for verbal test readiness and 25 hours are required for quant test readiness. So from verbal and quant test readiness standpoint, similar amount of effort is required. Okay. Now compare and contrast the orange and the yellow part over here. There is more of learning upfront that is required for verbal because you're starting from a lower starting percentile. Contrast that with quant. In quant, you are going to be starting with stage 2, which is you're going to be solving questions in a very controlled manner. And from that exercise, you're going to see where all you are lacking in. And then you're going to go into the course portion of the e-GMAT platform. And then you're going to build those bridge those gaps, and then you'll move into the test readiness part. So the system is intelligent enough to understand what kind of learning is required, what kind of preparation is required, so that you get to your target score in the most efficient manner. And by tracking all these metrics, by having all these metrics, you will be able to make sure that you make those corrections as you are proceeding. So you are never in the dark. Now, this is based on your starting verbal scores and quant scores and DI scores. Now the system is going to get more precise information about what your subsectional abilities are. So here, let's say this is the input that you're going to get from Sigma X mock. Okay, now it's going to get a more precise estimate of how long you're going to take. What did that 94 hour entail? Okay, so that is what you're going to get. So 4.5 weeks over here. Now we're going to do the same thing for algebra here. So let's do 77 here, and you're a little better in algebra. So let's do that. And then it's going to now tell what do those 77 hours entail, and that's what it is. And last, we're going to do DS, so DI. So let's just put that information and here, and then TPA, you're a little better. No, let's do here, and then MSR is the worst one here, and we're going to get DI milestones. I'm breezing through this right now because there's something else that I want to show you. Okay. And now next, it's going to tell you more precise. So now you see that 94 hours has reduced to 86 hours. Okay, that 77 hours has reduced to 45 hours because now the system has a lot more information about you, because now you've entered what your algebra and arithmetic subsectional abilities were. Okay, so but DI has increased. Why? Because TPA and MSR were your weaker sections. Okay. Next, what you do is you essentially, the system tells you what your sequence should be. Okay. And then what happens is you can put in your time estimates over here. Okay. You right now the system is assuming 2 hours per weekday, and you are and 5 hours per day of the weekend. Okay. But you can go back and change it according to your own availability. Maybe Mondays are really hard for you, so you cannot spend that much time. So, but Wednesdays onwards, things start to get a little better. So maybe you can do Wednesday, Thursdays, 1 hour each. And then weekends you really want to put in more hours, because you want to get, instead of spending 20 hours a week, you want to spend 26 hours a week. So you're going to put in more hours over here. Now it is basically going to take this time commitment into consideration, and let's say you want to get started from tomorrow onwards, and now it's going to figure all that out, do all the adjustments here, and now based on this you can actually take your test anywhere in the second week of October. Okay. You accept that. And now what it's going to do is it's going to explain to you what your journey would look like. Okay. So in verbal, this is what it is. Let's show the detailed journey over here. You're going to start with master comprehension course, which is going to take 7 hours. Then you're going to finish CR course. You're going to do cementing in CR. Then you're going to do RC course, do cementing in RC, and you can see how much time we are spending on cementing. Okay. And then you do verbal test readiness. Now, quant, look at this. You are starting with quant basics course. That is a very important course. But given where you're at, you may just need 3 hours for that. And then you're doing cementing in number properties, and then you're doing you're finishing up with you're bridging your gaps utilizing the NP course. Likewise, the same thing over here. Okay. And the system did this based on your starting scores in arithmetic and algebra. And likewise for DI, and this is where you see that there are two test readiness modules in DI, one that you do before MSR and one that you do after MSR, and then there is this final test readiness. Okay. And then it basically saves the plan. And now what you get is this success compass view, in which day by day what it is that you need to do is given to you in the calendar format. Okay. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to keep close tabs on exactly how you are proceeding. And if, let's say, life happens, let's say you had to go for an urgent work trip, which means that on this Wednesday you won't be able to spend that much time, so you're going to just simply say mark no study day, and then the system is going to take that input and it's going to get updated automatically. Okay. So all of that you can do. In fact, if you have an upcoming travel, you can already plan for when you won't be able to do, and then maybe this Monday, which you had at a stretch decided not to do as a study day, you may say, you know what, I have to make up my time. I am going to really spend take half day off, and I'm going to spend 6 hours, so that, because I don't want my test day to move at all. So you can do all that planning. You have all that planning is in your hands. Okay. Likewise, let's say if you're able to finish something sooner, if a certain module took less time, if a certain module took longer time, so the system, you can make all those adjustments in the system automatically. And whenever you make manual adjustments, you see this asterisk on in your plan. Okay. So this is it. Again, I'm going to stop sharing and come back to my presentation mode here. So I hope that you all get the sense of how it is. And one second, the chat over here was different chat. This was the webinar chat. So let me just get that one here so that we are all working off of the same chat. Hide, because I know there were some questions in that chat. Here. Okay. Any comments on this? What do you guys think about having a study plan which is as detailed as this one, which gives you complete control of your study? Can you get the link of this score planner? Absolutely. So if you, let me see. So people who are already e-GMAT students can actually create create this study plan on their own, just the way I created it right now. Okay. Obviously, you will need to have taken the mock test, right? And those of you who are not as yet e-GMAT students, what you can do is you can schedule a call, take a mock test by clicking these two. By clicking this link over here, okay, SigmaX mock link, and then schedule a call with your strategy expert, okay. And let me turn back my video. All right, yes. So waiting for comments. What do you guys think? I plan on taking SigmaX mock test today and create the study plan. I've already started with the modules. Okay, that's fine, Abhilash. So I know that you have recently purchased the e-GMAT course. That's really good. So yes, but definitely before you proceed further with the modules, definitely create your study plan. So take the mock test and create your study plan. It's as quick as what we took about 10 minutes, but again, I was explaining things to you. Okay. So, but yeah, you should be able to create one within 5 minutes, no more than that. And just keep a close tabs on keep very close tabs on it, and make sure that you continue to, this should be your guiding light, this should be your map. Basically, whenever you go from point A to point B, you always use Google Maps, right? Or something like Google Maps. So let this be your Google Maps for you. Okay. All right. Any other comments? Can we filter and practice particular topic based questions in the course, and how many practice? Yes, absolutely. So later on in the session, I'm going to show you how you can use Scholaranium, and again, you will be able to get your answer then. Okay, Altamash? All right. So with this special mention to PACE, it's fantastic. Yes, we'll be talking about PACE as well. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to um, get into the heart of algebra here. As I said, first thing is I'm going to give you feedback on your current conceptual ability. Then we're going to work on what does it mean to improve your process skills, and then we'll work on applying all of that on difficult questions. Okay. Now, as I said, the topics over here are linear inequalities, quadratic inequalities, and then absolute values. Okay. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 7 questions back to back. Okay. And let's get those. Let me show you what those questions, how those questions appear. Um, Anytime I give you a question, I want all of you to click on still solving, and let's open that, because I don't give you a hard time limit here. Okay. As soon as you all click on, as soon as about 50% of the class selects an appropriate answer, makes a selection, I give you a 5 second or a 15-second warning, depending upon the complexity level of question. So I have about 41 participants here. So I would urge, ideally, I would want all 41 of you to select still solving, but I'll be happy with 20, because I know not everybody would be, I'm sure everybody would be solving questions. So let's get this number to 20 at least. And you're going to see 7 questions back to back. They will be, the first 3 questions are from linear inequalities, then quadratic inequalities, 2 questions, and then 2 questions from absolute values. And then you'll get the feedback on your regarding your conceptual ability, and then we'll go further from there. Okay. All right. So here comes your first question. Go ahead and solve it. And again, these are easy questions because these are simply testing standalone concepts. All right, last 5 seconds. I'm going to end the poll now. All right. And now here comes question number 2. Please click on still solving. Yes, I'm going to show question number 2. Here it is. Question number 2. Last 10 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll. And question number 3, please click on still solving, and then I'll show you the question on the screen. Okay, let's get this to 20. Last time we got 22. Okay. All right. And here is question number 3. Go ahead. All right. Last 10 seconds. I'm going to end the poll now. Interesting results. And let's look at the next question. Now we are moving to quadratic inequalities. Click on still solving, please. 2 questions in that arena. Okay, well and good. Here is question number 1 from quadratic. Okay, last 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. And one more question, quadratic. Click on still solving, please. All right, here you go. All right, last 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. And last, let me open it real quick because I know some of you were clicking on the answers. Okay, sounds good. Ending it now. And here is question number 6. We are moving into absolute values. And this is going to be one of the easier questions. So click on still solving, please. Okay, here you go. Last 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. And last question left. Here it is. Click on still solving, please. Okay, here is question number 7. Okay, last 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. All right, how was this experience? I'm going to go back to the first question. I'm going to show you all the answers, but how was this experience? Actually, guys, I'm going to clear off this chat real quick. Yes, yeah. Did you guys feel that these were all easy questions, but did you guys get a sense of where you are at? Any guesses of where you are at? Three difficult questions. Sorry, three difficult concepts, right? Linear, quadratic, and absolute values. So I'm going to give you your the correct answers now. Okay. So these are all less than 550 level, less than I would say five. Yeah. So these are very conceptual questions. Okay. So sorry about that. Let's remove this stuff from here. Okay. So question number one. Let's broadcast the results. 68% of you got this question correct. Again, choice B is the correct answer. What we are doing over here is we are simply testing whether you can solve a simple linear inequality. So for those of you who selected choice A or who were still in that solving mode, 8 of you guys need to work on your conceptual ability of regarding solving linear inequalities. Okay. And the good thing is that even if you're not an e-GMAT student, our free trial includes the complete module for linear inequality. So you can go from start to expert level utilizing that module. And I'm going to walk you through how you can do that. Okay. So choice question number one, choice B is the correct answer. I want all of you to maintain log of how many questions you're getting right. Okay. Let's look at question number two. Question number two, the correct answer again is choice B. You can see how the accuracy has gone from 68% to what 56% in this one. Okay, and there were a lot of students who were not able to solve. Now it's very natural, right? Here we are solving simple linear inequality. Okay, here you're solving two linear inequalities. So from the conceptual level, there is an increase in the complexity level of this concept. Now, when you come over to this question here, question number three, here there is a further increase in the concept, in the difficulty level. And what you can see is 55% of the students got this question right. Now, again, what's happening over here is you need to flip the sign of the inequality, and I'll walk you through that also real quick. Okay, so this is for linear inequalities. Okay, so three questions. I want you all to tell me how many questions you got right. Now, if you answered even one question incorrectly, then you have major conceptual gaps. Okay, and that's very important. At this stage, you should have 100% accuracy. Okay, so how many of you answer? And let me get a yes no poll over here so that you guys can type in over here. So if you got all three questions correct, great job. You do not need to go through any of the concept files in that module. Okay, if you answered even one question incorrectly, I want you to click on no over here, because the feedback for you is that you have major conceptual gaps. Okay, in one incorrect done, silly mistake in first. So Navdeep, I always want you to go beyond, describe the silly mistake correctly, because ideally speaking, anything pertaining to GMAT should not have, you need to remove the word silly from your dictionary, because silly mistake, there's always a reason why you faltered. Okay, so I want you to explicitly write that down. Okay, and map it to the appropriate cause. Okay, calculation error for the second question. Now, why did you make that calculation error? That is very important. Okay, so Abhishek and Navdeep, I want you to dig a little deeper over there. Okay, now question number, okay, let's get rid of these annotations. Okay, question number 4, we are now moving to quadratic inequalities. So here, the correct answer is choice C, and you can see how the accuracy is 38%. Okay, and quadratic inequalities is definitely a more difficult topic than linear inequalities. That goes without saying. And again, I'll walk you through the solutions. I won't teach you the solutions, but I'll definitely walk you through the solutions. And this question, again, 50% accuracy, but I'm pretty sure that the method over here, there would be a lot of learnings that would come out when I discuss this question with you. Okay, now again, how many of you made one at least? So If you answered both questions correctly, click on yes, okay, because the feedback for you is that you do not, according to this analysis, you do not have anything major lacking in your conceptual ability, right? But if you have made even one mistake, then yes. So about 11 of you or 12 of you have major conceptual gaps, okay? So now let's move on to absolute value equations. Now here, choice C is the correct answer. Let's broadcast that 53%. And again, over here, 50% of the class got this question right, which means that you guys know the basic definition of absolute values, okay? For those of you who do not, then definitely this is a concept that you need to work on. Last question was really an inference-based question. So truly testing whether you actually understand the concept behind absolute values. Again, 50% accuracy, which means that there is that level of absorption that is still required. Okay. So how many of you made no mistakes in absolute values? And for those of you who made mistakes in absolute values, which means people who are clicking on no, you guys have major conceptual gaps. Okay. Now, does this level of feedback help you understand where you need to focus on? Right? Now, this was based on just 7 questions across 3 different concepts, right? Now, when you go into the course itself, Quant 2.0 course, and somebody had mentioned PACE, right? I think that was you, Abhilash, right? So when you go into the actual course, and as I said, for linear inequalities, right now, we had what? Only 3 questions covered, only 3 questions in the session, right? But in the actual diagnostic for concepts, there are 7 questions. And that's when utilizing your feedback, your performance on these 7 questions, the system decides which of these 3 concept files should you spend time on. Because again, as I said, you have your time is precious, right? So the entire thing about the quant course over here is that you spend time only where you need to spend time, so that you're not unnecessarily wasting your time, which is where through this diagnostic quiz, through this concept diagnostic quiz, you get to know which of the files can you confidently skip. Okay, right? So you get that kind of granular feedback. Likewise, through the diagnostic quiz, 6 questions, right now I only asked you 2 questions and I gave you feedback based on that. Now for those of you who answered both the questions correctly, for you, you don't have major conceptual gaps, but I would strongly recommend that you go through this diagnostic, because this will have 6 questions, so that you understand, are there any minute gaps that can be identified at this point? Because anything minute right now, anything significant, right, although small right now, will balloon into a major gap down the road. And that's what we are attempting to minimize, right? So you do things right the first time, so that you don't have to face issues down the line, because they're going to be bigger issues, bigger fish to fry down the road. Okay, so 6 questions for quadratic equations, and then 10 questions in absolute values, and you get very, very detailed feedback, because now absolute values are split into 5 concepts. Okay, now which one of these 5 concepts can you comfortably skip, can you confidently skip? The decision for that is made utilizing these 10 questions. Okay, so that is the power of the diagnostics that are built into each module of your quant course. Okay, what do you guys think about that? And how do you think that's going to help you, plan your study? Because again, all of you guys have been, quant is one subject that has that continuity built into it, right? Because you have we almost all of us have been learning quant all through our schooling journey, right? But then we get the sense that, okay, there's so much to cover, but how do we make sure that we cover only what we absolutely need to cover? And that is what these diagnostics enable you to do. Okay, now let's look at these questions over here. I'm going to hide this here, and let's get this yes no poll here. So this question, basic knowledge of inequalities, right? So I'm not going to go into the details of this one. Now here, the main thing was that you need to manipulate the inequalities the right way. And once you do that, you get y is greater than -2. Now, those of you who spent a lot of time, now when I look at the the results of this one, I think it was what, 56% accuracy, right? Now there were quite a few of you who were still in the solving mode, and I'm pretty sure that those of you who were still in the solving mode were just a little bit intimidated with these inequalities. Am I right? So my guess over here is that you spend an hour going through the right concept file, and you will get confident in solving such inequalities. Okay, so that's the power of learning the concepts in a staged manner and having these metrics right in front of you. Okay, getting that feedback and then implementing that feedback right away. Now, this was the question, and let's get the accuracy once again because I don't remember. Yeah, 55% over here. uh, yeah. Okay, now this was the question where what you needed to do was flip the sign of the inequality, right? Now, how many of you know this concept that if you are multiplying both sides of the inequality with a negative sign, then you need to flip the sign of the inequality? How many of you are absolutely comfortable with that concept? Yes, good. How many of you were not comfortable with that concept? Or how many of you are hearing about it for the first time today? Press yes if you're hearing about it for the first time today. Good, very nice, very nice. And again, it's good. So, two or three of you who are marking that, really very nice, because that is the learning that you have now. Okay. Now, why that is happening is something which I'm not going to spend the time right now explaining, but the free trial has that entire linear inequalities module. So I want you to go through that so that you understand the why behind it. Because once you understand the why, then you will be able to apply that learning a lot more confidently. Okay, then it's not going to be just a fact that you have to memorize. You will have the reasoning behind that fact. Okay, that's very important. Okay, now over here, this is the quadratic inequality, and again the accuracy here was let's see, what was the accuracy here? 38%. Now, a number of you selected choice A. Okay, I want you all to, obviously, which means that you have to build your ability here. Now this is a very conceptual, again, all of these are concept based questions, but this, if you understand the logic behind it, essentially all you're saying is, and I'm going to delve a little bit deeper into it, all we are saying over here is that product of two numbers, one number is x minus 2, the other is x minus 3, product of two numbers is greater than 0. What does that mean in terms, if you apply your understanding of number properties? What does that mean? This means either both numbers would be positive or both numbers would be negative. Right with me so far? Now what you do is, if both numbers are positive, this means that you either have x is greater than 2, or you have x or you have x is greater than 3, which means that if you combine both the inequalities, you get x is greater than 3. Okay. Likewise, you do the same processing for the second condition. You have to take both the conditions. When you do the same processing for second condition, you get the overarching condition over here, which says x is less than 2. Okay, which means that the correct answer over here is negative infinity to 2, because that's what is x is less than 2. So essentially, you look at your, whenever you are solving these ranges, always make sure that you draw your number line so that you can visualize it correctly. Now, this input over here has been has been visualized on the number line, and now you can see that, okay, 2 3, that is absolutely wrong. Why? Because that is representing this area, which is not the area for my solution. So those of you who selected choice A, because 8 of you selected choice A, where did you falter? Did you just look at 2 and 3 in the inequality and you just selected something that looked better? Choice A looks better? Or did you go through this processing here? Comments here. I can cold call as well. So let's see, choice A. So Shivam, Sid, Nidhi, Paridhi, Benedict, Abhilash, I knew it but missed doing it. Need to brush up. Okay, so good. And again, go through the modules, right? So whenever you're working on algebra, Forgot the concept set? Okay, so yes, so you have that feedback now, right? So good. And again, whenever you're learning the concepts, don't do brute force learning. Always understand the basic principle behind every concept, because if you don't know the principle, then registering that concept would be very difficult. Okay, the way I explained this principle right now, that all it is product of two numbers is greater than zero. Okay, now you're working your way through, right? So if you understand the principle, then you would never, and if you've done enough reinforcement of that, which means that you learn the concept, okay, and then you practice it right there and then, and you review the solutions right there and then, and you make sure that you hit the metrics. Okay, that's very important. Okay, so as long as you're doing that, you will not forget the concept, whether it is algebra, whether it is absolute, whether it is number properties, whether it is graphic interpretation in DI. Okay, so these learning principles is what you have to, once you start applying in one subsection, you will be able to, you will know how to apply it on the other subsections as well. Got it? Okay. The parentheses means that the number isn't included. Yes, in this case, it's not included, right? Yeah. Now, I don't believe that GMAT tests you on this, right? So I know that there are these parentheses, right? Square and these curved parentheses. I don't believe GMAT tests you on this, okay? But Aditya, regardless, so that is not the differentiation between choices A and C, right? In this case, everything has the same parentheses, right? But I haven't seen a question in which GMAT is testing that. Oh, you fumbled up on the next one. Okay, next one. Let's see. Okay, all right. Now here, okay, so let me take a look at the next one. Okay, so here, wavy line method. Now, quadratic inequalities can be solved using the basic principle, right? But there is also this real quick method of solving it, which is called the wavy line method. How many of you are aware of the wavy line method? Okay, not many of you. Okay, I will find our article for this so that you can learn it. Okay, because again, for e-GMAT students, there is this concept file in which you can learn all of that. But for non-e-GMAT students, let me. So while you guys are solving questions, I'm going to find the article and I'm going to share that with you. Essentially, what you do is you find the 0 points. Okay, this is a real quick method of solving it. You find the 0 points which are 2 and 3. Okay, then you plot these 0 points on your number line. So let me show it to you, 2 and 3 here. Then you essentially draw a wavy line like this. Okay, so you start from this corner and then you draw your wavy line like this. And now what you have to do is, if your, because your inequality is greater than zero, so you go above the axis, which means this is the range, which is again less than 2 and greater than 3. Okay, so this way you're able to solve it real quick without really considering the two cases. So this is a very quick method of solving quadratic inequalities, whether it's quadratic or whether it's higher order inequalities, right? So that you don't have to consider all these cases and you're able to do it real quick. Okay, so a very good method to learn. Okay, now let's come to the next question here. Okay, Aditya, even in this question the parentheses are still the same, so I'm not sure um, why you were wondering about that part here. Again, your inequality is still less than, it's not less than or equal to. Okay, so here also the main thing is, and let's get this question, the data for this question, question number 5. Here also the main thing is that you can, oh, okay, x plus 4 is less than, so x minus 3 over x plus 4, right? So tell me, can you simply multiply both sides? Can you simply take x plus 4 on this side and end up getting x minus 3 is less than 0? Can you do that? Can you simply say that, simplification of this is x minus 3 is less than 0, which means x is less than 3, which means the correct answer over here is, actually, there's no answer that maps that. You cannot say that, right? Guys with me? I'm not seeing anyone typing. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Why is that? The reason is the reason for that is because you don't know the sign of x plus 4. You don't know whether x plus 4 is positive or negative. Okay. You know for sure that x plus 4 cannot be 0. Okay. But you don't know whether it's positive or negative. And why is that important? What if x plus 4 is negative? What will happen? No, if x plus 4 is negative, Navdeep, it's not going to become infinity. If x plus 4 is negative, what's going to happen? You will have to flip the sign of the inequality, right? So if you multiply both sides by x plus 4, right, then you are going to flip, you will have to, and if x plus 4 is negative, then you'll have to flip the sign of inequality, which means your inequality will then become x minus 3 is greater than 0. Okay. Versus if x plus 4 is positive, then your inequality will be x minus 3 is less than 0. Again, what you're doing is you're multiplying both sides by x plus 4 so that you can simplify it. So you cannot do that part, right? Which means what you have to do is, in order to simplify this, what you have to do is you have to multiply both sides by x plus 4 whole square. And that's what we have done over here. When you do that, you get this inequality, and then you simply apply your wavy line method and you get the answer as choice C. Okay. So, got it? So again, simple question, but application of two concepts. One, how do you solve quadratic inequalities? Number two, multiplying, understanding of the fact that you cannot simply multiply both sides by x plus 4, and because you don't know how the sign of the inequality is going to change. Got it? Okay. All right, now let me go back to, so Aditya, if you fumbled on this question, okay, you would have fumbled there was no consideration of whether negative 4, I know x cannot be equal to negative 4 because then this expression is going to be undefined, right? But there is no choice that actually has x is equal to negative 4. So you could not have selected anything that way. All right. Okay. All right. Good. Um, all right, now let's move on to our next question. Now, this one is a simple application of what absolute values are, and I believe 50% of the students don't have that kind of knowledge. So again, you feedback to you is that you have to ensure that you build that ability here. Okay. Now, this one is a very interesting one. P minus Q, mod of P minus Q, and let's go to the last one here, is equal to a minus b. Now, whenever you see an expression such as this, how many of you actually got scared looking at four variables here? Okay. And then your answer choices also in terms of those variables. How many of you got scared? Because getting scared is good. Why? I'm going to tell you that. But first tell me how many of you got scared. Press yes if you got scared looking at it. Good. Whenever you get scared looking at multiple variables, obviously in an algebra type question, take a step back. That is very, very important because that tells you that, it's not, it is looking complicated. It looks very complex, but it's not complex. There is something very simple that I have to do. Okay, I have everything in my arsenal to answer this question, and what it is, as Abhilash is mentioning, modulus of p minus q is equal to a minus b. What do I know about modulus? Let me translate this. What it's saying is, as it's mentioned here, a minus b is equal to modulus of some number. I don't care what that number is. I know that number here is p minus q, but I know that if a minus b is absolute value of some number, then that means that a minus b is greater than 0. This is the inference that I needed to draw over here. Based on my understanding, okay, I'm trying to get rid of this part here. So this is what you needed to infer. Because Absolute value of some a minus b is equal to absolute value of some number. This means a minus b is a non-negative number. Absolutely, Abhishek. Okay. What does that mean? This means that a is greater than or equal to b. And that's where choice C is the correct answer. Okay. So, as an indication that whenever you get scared, that scared feeling requires you to step back. Whenever you get that, utilize that as a hint, okay? And then take a step back and just go back, retrieve the concept, okay? Do apply this concept of this process scale of translation, okay? How are we translating here? A minus B is an absolute value of some number. Translate that. Remember, we did similar kind of translation in the previous question also over here. Okay, product of two numbers is greater than zero. You see how we are doing such translations, and by doing that we are able to retrieve the appropriate concepts. That's something which you have to get in the habit of doing. Okay, all right. Okay, so with this, we are done with the first section wherein you got feedback on your concepts. What's your take on this? What do you think about the session so far? What do you think about your learning so far? Because now we are going to move into our next section wherein we are going to increase the difficulty level a bit. So as I set up my the next one, and next one we have one, how many questions? I think 4 questions. Yeah, we have 4 questions in the next one. Can we see the sixth solution? So Ishika, how do you know if the values are before or after? Okay, one second. So Sid, here is the solution for sixth question here. So Ishika, you have to so Ishika, that is where you have to understand the logic behind the wavy line method. Okay, so essentially, above or below depends on if the inequality is greater than zero or if the inequality is less than zero. Okay, so if the inequality sign is greater than zero, then you are above the x-axis. If it's less than zero, then you're below the x-axis. Okay, all right. Abhilash, that sounds really good. Thank you so much. What session was that? Just curious. And Sid, good that you got this one. Okay, but Ishika, while you guys would be solving the next question, I'll look up that article so that I can share that with you. But if you, so are you an e-GMAT student? Actually, let me get this information. How many of you are e-GMAT students? Because accordingly, I'm going to make sure that I provide information. So if you are e-GMAT student, click on yes. If not, then click on no. Okay, I have 40 participants here. Can I get a little bit more participation? Okay, arithmetic webinar. Good. All right, let's now move to our next section here. And sorry about that. I should have gotten rid of these annotations here. Okay, let's reopen this poll and click on still solving, please. Okay, so now the difficulty level is going to increase a bit. Okay, we have all now folks who got the feedback that they need to build their conceptual ability. You may not be able to solve these questions, okay? And that's absolutely fine. I still want you to continue in this session. Try as much as you can. But when I discuss these solutions, I want you to focus on what once you build your conceptual ability, what else do you need to do? What is the next step? So I want you to get that complete vision of what would it entail for you to prepare for algebra, and obviously for other sections of quant as well. Okay, so just reminder for those of you who got the feedback that you need to build on your conceptual ability. Okay, all right, so here is the question. Go ahead and solve it. All right, last 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. So let me broadcast the results. I know that about 40% of you were not able to solve this question within the time constraint, within the time that I gave you. And that's okay, right? Because I'm pretty sure you would be stuck with the concept part of it. Okay, so I don't, yeah. So let's focus on what, once you build the concept, right? What else do you need to focus on? Look at this question statement. How many non-negative integral values of m do the two given inequalities satisfy? Now, the conceptual part over here is simply solving these two inequalities. But the process skill part over here is what I'm going to question you on. What do you know about m over here? What do you know about m? Given this question statement, what do you know about m? Non-negative integer, which means what? Little bit more. What does non-negative integer mean? Okay, see, I have different answers over here. Non-negative means only positive. Does it not include zero at all? Could be zero, absolutely. So so again, for those of you who were, so over here, m is greater than or equal to zero, not just so. Ashwin, positive value means that zero is not a positive number. So so if you're saying positive values, this means 1, 2, 3, 4, not zero. So that's wrong. Navdeep Singh, same thing for you. Okay, you said more than zero, which means you're not considering zero. Abhishek, you're right. M is equal to zero and positive real numbers. No, not real numbers, positive integers, right? You don't have decimals over here. So Abhishek, you're also not right here. Okay. Aditya, you're correct here. Okay. Abhilash, again, not more than zero. It has to include zero as well. Okay. Sorish, you're correct here. Okay. So, got it? So, that's the learning. Now, when it comes to solving these two linear inequalities, that is your conceptual application. Okay, when you solve it, here you have to apply all the concepts. Linear, linear inequalities in two variables. You also have to apply the concept of flipping the sign. So all of that is there. So what you see over here in the approach and working out section, that is all your concept application. But once you get the answer that m is less than 2.5, how many of you got to the point that m is less than 2.5? Or how many of you did not get to that point? Let me actually remove this. How many of you did not get to the point that m is less than 2.5? Okay, so all of you got to that point, right? So the reason why you faltered over here was the correct answer is choice C, which only four of you selected. The others who selected choice B, which is five of you, you made a mistake because you did not translate that constraint properly. Okay, so that is the learning for you. Okay, so there are two kinds of learnings there are two kinds of there are two reasons why, despite getting m less than 2.5, despite getting here, you would still mark the question as wrong. One is that you don't consider this at all. You don't even consider looking at the non-negative integers. Okay, which is hard to do over here because you really need the number of values, right? Second is, which is the more prominent one, is that you don't know the definition of non-negative numbers. Okay, that is the more prevalent one over here. Okay, now that is if you've gotten to this point. If you were not able to get to this point, then obviously it is either you don't know how to solve this, or you were not able to do this part over here, flip the sign. So there are three possible reasons as to why you can make this, why you can answer this question incorrectly. Okay, so now tell me, what are the reasons? Reason number one is that you don't know how to solve, don't know how to solve it. Reason number two is that you didn't flip the sign. Reason number three is that you did not know the definition of non-negative numbers. So tell me, which reason is applicable? Actually, let me get a poll here. Choose your answer. I'm going to edit the poll because that's very important. Okay, tell me here. Which one? Number three, the definition. Okay, let's see. Number two was did not flip the sign. And then obviously, those of you who got this correct, four of you got this correct. Okay, so that's the primary reason you did not know the definition. Now that you know the definition, non-negative numbers, non-positive numbers always include zero. Okay, positive numbers do not include zeros. Negative numbers do not include zeros. Okay, now that you know this definition, I do not want you guys to make this mistake again in this session and any point beyond this. Got it? Promise? Yes? Good, very nice. Okay, now let's move on to our next question here. And this is five choices. Let's go here and click on still solving, please. See, first you guys have to click on still solving because as soon as I show you the question, you start solving the question. Good. All right, thank you. Here is the question. Okay, last 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to end this poll. Sorry, it took a little bit more time. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. Very interesting. Okay, let's count the number of oh no's here. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Let me broadcast the results also. Um, what do we know about x? What do we know about x? It's an integer. What is the question asking? Minimum value of that integer, right? How can minimum value of the integer be negative 5.5? Right? Yeah, but how can, so Ankur, Ashwin, Ishika, participant, it can't be a decimal, right? Abhishek, Shivam, Sid, Rohan, right? So how can minimum value of any number, forget about any of the inequalities here, right? So how can minimum value of an integer, the answer to that be negative 5.5? Got it? Got your mistake? So everyone who selected choices A and B don't they don't have any issues with the concept that is being tested here, which is can you solve two linear inequalities? Okay, there is no issue with that. But the reason why you got this question wrong, right, for those of you who selected choice A, because B is the correct answer, the reason why you got this question wrong is because you did not pay attention to the constraint. What do you have to say for that? I need comments here. Because such realizations are very, very critical. Oh, you guys are typing. Sorry, I have my chat was scrolled up. Okay, sorry about that. Carefully applied constraints this time. Good, Aditya. Very nice. Abhishek says it cannot be a decimal. Sid is saying only if you ignored the integer. Abhishek said, okay, good, very nice. So again, so Ashwin, so Ashwin over here, I won't say it's a definition error. Okay, in the previous one, it was the definition error because you guys looked at non-negative and you said non-negative does not include zero. So that was the definition error. Okay, which again led to the constraint error. Here, you didn't even observe the constraint. That is the issue over here. You didn't look at the constraint that x is an integer. Okay, unless you looked at x as an integer, but you didn't know what an integer is, then it's a definition error. Got it, Ashwin? But I'm pretty sure that most that the likelihood of that happening is very low. The probability of that is low. Okay, good, very nice. So every time, so once you build your concepts, okay, once you build your concepts, the next stage of proficiency in algebra comes by carefully looking at these aspects. Okay, looking every time you look at a variable, and again constraints are very much applicable in algebra. Why? Because of the logical reason, you're dealing with variables, right? So you have to understand what are the constraints that the system is setting for you. Okay, always make a note of that whenever you have your when it's on your scratch pad. What I want you all to do is whenever you are whenever you are solving algebra questions, initially, on your scratch pad, make a separate note for, oh, no, sorry. Why did my writing pad get hung? Okay. Oh, I'm using my other pen. Sorry about that. So whenever you basically have, if this is your solution screen over here, make this box specifically for constraints, okay? So that you don't miss out on that. So that you have this separate place here, write down X integer, okay? Or X 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever, right? So that way you will make that as a conscious habit. And once, so you mean you'll make conscious effort in the beginning. And once you do that on 20 questions, it'll become a natural process. Then you won't really need to draw a separate box. With me, everyone? Good. Altamash, you're asking about, could you please explain the change in equation 2? Change in equation 2. Um, there is no, what do you mean by change in equation 2? Sorry, sine. Okay. You want me to solve this? Okay, let me just see. Uh, X plus 6. Okay, 2x is. Okay, equal. All right. Okay, let me work this out separately and then I'll tell you. Okay, while the other folks start responding. So while you answer the second question. Okay. Okay. All right. So now we are moving to the next part here, and there are going to be two questions back to back. All right. So here, let me look at definition error. Okay. Reopen. Let's click on still solving. Aditya, I will take a look at that too so that I can give you feedback on whether you're assigning appropriate reasoning. So I'll look at that while you guys solve this question. Okay. Yeah. So two questions back to back. It will be same inequality, but I'm going to be asking two different things. Okay. Um, okay. Let's get some more people to click on still solving. Okay. Go ahead and solve this question. All right. Last 15 seconds. All right, I'm going to show you the next question now. And this is the next one. Click on still solving, please. Okay, and here is the next question. Go ahead. All right, last few seconds here, last 10 seconds. You shouldn't be taking this long to solve this one. Okay, I'm going to end this poll now. And let's go back to the previous one. So let's broadcast. So here, oh, sorry about that. It's too much. Okay. So what is the range of values of z squared given that, and you have this quadratic inequality here. So people who have selected choice A, that's the incorrect answer here. And the reason for that is basically the reason why you've gotten this question wrong is very similar to the reason why you got that other question wrong in which you didn't observe the constraint, that negative 5.5. Okay. And again, so I'll go into the details of that one too, because some of you asked some follow-on questions on that. Okay. Now observe over here. What is the question asking? Question is asking range of values for z squared. What do you know about z squared? As a number, z squared, what information do you have? Remember the way we process the definition of absolute values? The same way we need to process the understanding of z squared. Sid, is it positive? Aditya, is it positive? Is it just positive? Yes, you have to be very, very precise. Zero is a very critical number here. Okay, so if you simply say positive, you will end up making mistakes because the answer choices will definitely be such which would the incorrect answer choices will definitely incorporate that as a faltering point. So you have to be very, very precise. Okay, got it? So the correct answer is choice D over here. Now the Vishnu, everything on GMAT deals with real numbers. Okay, that's something which you have to go with. Okay, so a lot of the concepts all entail real numbers, which is why option A would not be correct. Okay, um, yes, you're absolutely right, Aditya. It doesn't deal with imaginary numbers. Okay, now which is where you have all those constraints, which is why all these conceptual constraints are very, very critical. Your denominator can never be zero. Your square of a number can never be less than zero. Okay, so all those conceptual constraints come from the fact that on GMAT everything is real. Okay, and think about it. GMAT is a very application oriented test, right? In day-to-day applications we don't deal with imaginary numbers. Okay, all right, so now over here, when you are solving this question, again, so people who selected choice A, I hope that you've understood where you faltered. Okay. The right way to solve this question is, again, you look at this quadratic inequality. Don't just jump into applying your wavy line method. Okay. Make some inferences by looking at this. Z squared plus 4. So again, from conceptually, you know that there are two product of two numbers is less than zero according to this, right? So you're translating that part. Product of two numbers is less than zero, which means one of the numbers can be one of the numbers needs to be positive, the other needs to be negative, right? Now, can z squared plus 4 ever be negative? Tell me that. Can z squared plus 4 ever be negative? Absolutely not, which means that the only way this inequality holds true is if z squared minus 2 is less than 0, which is where you get that z squared, which is where you get the whole thing about, sorry, choice D being the correct answer. Z squared is less than 0, okay? And because z squared is greater than or equal to 0, given the definition of square of a number, you get choice D as the correct answer. So what you see over here is I didn't even need a pen and a paper to solve this question. What I needed was careful interpretation of what the question is telling me, drawing inferences, understanding the constraints that are not explicitly stated but implicitly stated, which means I need to infer those constraints and then just working my way through it. Do you guys see that? What do you guys not see? Ashwin, Aditya, Altamash? I'm not sure if the no is for that. Sorry, I think I had asked another question, so I believe no is for that. Got it, got it. All right. So, do you guys get the sense? I hope that you get the sense that this is the sense that I want you to get, that algebra is not complex. Are you guys with me? Are you getting that sense? Good, very nice. Because see, once you see all of this in action, you will be able to get that level of confidence that, yes, I can do it. Okay. Yes, I need to spend that kind of time building my concepts. Yes, I need to be focused when I'm solving questions. But what I'm focused on is not just rote solutions. What I need to be focused on is applying these process skills of translating, of drawing inferences, of looking at constraints. Okay, that's very important. And translating this back and forth, translation is not just applicable to taking English in word problems and then converting that into math. Translation is very much applicable to things such as this: product of two numbers is less than zero. What does that mean? Drawing inferences, retrieving appropriate concepts, and then going further, and then combining information. Here, we applied the definition of of square of a number, and then we incorporated that definition back into our range again. So staying in complete control of your solution, that is the true skill that you need to possess if you have to do well, if you have to get to that 90th percentile in quant. Okay. Now, observe this here, that you have 0 is less than or equal to z squared is less than 2, right? Now we come to your next question. And here is the um, data here. The choices here. Choice C is the correct answer. Okay, so that's good. Now, those of you who could not make a selection over here, most likely you were not able to solve the previous question, and that's okay. Okay. Now, those of you who did not select choice C, again, think about it. 0 is less than or equal to z squared is less than 2. Definition of integer. Integer can be 0 or 1, which means that 2 is the correct answer. So, three of you who selected choice B, you again did not consider the definition of z squared, of the fact that z is an integer and z squared can be 0. So, here the issue is really the definition part. Got it? Okay, what have your learnings been so far? So we've done quite a few questions. What, 4 questions here, 7 questions previously. What are your learnings so far? Focus on applying constraints carefully. Good. And as promised, here is the wavy line video. So in this video, we explain to you the wavy line method, and here is the wavy line article. So I'm just going to open these at your end. So the video will start, so you can just pause it, okay? And then we'll take a look at that again later, okay? So this is at your end. All right, so now, okay, Ashwin is saying constraints and definition are very important before solving the question. Good, okay. Not only the concept, need to apply the constraints along with problem solving. Very good. All right. Okay. So let's go through this part here now. How do you achieve excellence? Okay. You build your concepts, you build your process skills, right? And once you learn the concepts, you essentially work on applying those concepts to utilizing the process skills as we just as we just saw. And as you are applying these process skills, every 15 minutes to 30 minutes, depending upon the length of each file over here, you get feedback of whether you are applying it the right way or not. Okay. And what I'm showing you on the screen are different modules, how this is applicable in linear inequalities, quadratic inequalities, and then absolute values. Okay. And once you do that, okay, what you need to do is you need to have that complete control on what is it that you're truly targeting. Okay. In the first stage, when you're building concepts, again, high accuracy, as I said, 100% accuracy. I did not accept even a single question as incorrect, to give you that sense that yes, you have good conceptual knowledge. If you answer even a single question incorrectly, you don't have good conceptual knowledge. But as you move from stage one into stage two, what you see is that the threshold actually reduces. Here, that 80 percentile ability that you're targeting translates into 60% accuracy in hard questions. Okay. You still have a high accuracy, 80% accuracy in medium questions, but in hard questions, it's okay to answer questions incorrectly because you will end up because these are hard questions. Okay. But now, when you are working in stage three, which is your test readiness mode, that's where you have to further increase your accuracy in hard questions from that 60% to that 70%, which means that out of the 10 questions that you're solving in a particular quiz, you need to be able to answer one additional question correctly. Okay. Which happens if you get that precise feedback so that you can fix your specific weaknesses. Okay. So where in the first stage you are building overall concepts and application, in the second stage you go into fine tuning, you go into increasing your accuracy in hard questions. In stage 3 you do further hyper specific fine tuning so that you get that additional one or two questions correct. Okay, so that's how you have to look at your journey over here. Okay, so next what I'm going to show you is how would the pace engine really help you do all of that so that you don't waste your time doing things that are not really pertinent. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen once again, and let's look at right now. I'm pretty sure you would be seeing a herd of sheep here. um, mm, Not this one here. Okay, so everyone can see the screen. It says Gagan, welcome back. Everyone can see that? Okay, good. So let me show you Quant, and I'll start with the Quant basics. Okay, now this is an actual account. Okay, so what you see over here is for Quant basics, 14 and a half hours were required. Estimated course duration is 14 and a half hours. But this student actually was able to finish it in 5 hours. How is that possible? It's possible because of the PACE engine, personalized adaptive course engine. So while all of these modules are critical, we don't expect you to go through everything if you know things, right? Basics of numbers. So the student did basics of numbers concept quiz. He got a 92%, which meant that the only mistake that he did was in exponents file, which is what he did. And then he cemented his knowledge and he basically moved on. Likewise, simplifying integer expressions, he answered everything correctly in the diagnostics, so he was asked to skip everything. Now he can always go back and attempt these files, right? Okay, is the voice getting off? Yeah, so Aditya is saying that my voice is glitching. Is that glitching for everybody? Okay, I'm not seeing anything being typed by anybody. Larne, Benedict, no, okay. So Aditya, you may have to log back in. Thank you for checking. And thank you, Larne and Benedict, for confirming. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, right. So again, that's how by taking these concept diagnostics, uh, Gagan was able to reduce his time from 14 and a half hours to 5 hours. So 9.5 hours were available to him to do something else. Now I'm going to jump straight to algebra because we are within the context of algebra. Now, same thing applies here. Now, when you come to more nuanced topics or concepts that need to be taught per se, there you start to have these GMAT skill diagnostic quizzes as well. So not just the concept diagnostic quiz, but a two-layer diagnostics. So wherein you have a GMAT skill diagnostic. And so essentially based on both these, you essentially get things that you absolutely need to do and things that you can skip. And based on all of that, he was able to slash another 9.5 hours from his prep time. Okay. And again, let's look at linear inequalities here. Again, there were lots of concepts that he needed to review. Out of the three concepts, he needed to review two concepts. One he could skip, right? And then after that, he needed to do the process skill files. Okay. The kind of questions that we are doing today in this session, the 4 questions that we did, those kinds of questions only pertaining to linear inequalities are included in this file. Okay, and then there is a practice quiz. So here we are teaching how to solve these questions. You solve one question, you see the detailed solution. Here you are solving all the questions in the quiz mode, and then you're getting the final score. Okay, likewise in quadratic, look, his GMAT skill application was really low, but as he went through the concepts and the process skills and then the GMAT skills, he was able to get from the basics to mastery, utilize in the context of quadratic inequalities, utilizing this structure. Okay, so that is the power of this space engine. Okay, and what you see over here is the feedback that you're getting every 30 minutes. Okay, observe all these modules. Okay, are split into these learning levels, and you see that how whenever you're doing something, you essentially not only get the grades in every file, you also get that overall grade across all the modules, right? And when that so I want you to understand, what does this mean? Observe this grade A over here, C3 quadratic formula. 50% of the folks, now what you see over here is the median score, right? So translate that. 50% of the students, more than 50% of the students have scored 75%, right? Now Gagan scored 100%, which means that he is in that 85th percentile bracket. Okay, so grade A tells you that. Whenever he scored a grade B, he went back and revised his stuff, right? And then he basically upped his performance in the following file, right? So getting this level of feedback, that getting that comparative feedback, okay, how am I doing vis-a-vis the other GMAT aspirants? That is very, very motivating. Sometimes I see grade C's, grade B's, right? And then students get inspiration from other folks that, okay, I'm getting a grade C, I do not accept that, right? I want to do better. And then in the following files, they change certain ways of doing stuff, and then in the following files they are able to do better, right? So these kinds of insights you're able to get through the content, through the entire technology platform that we have built. Okay, so any comments on that? Students, e-GMAT students, have you utilized this journey view? I'm not sure why my video is not working here. I'm going to change the video. Okay, comments. Because once this thing is over, we are going to go into the difficult questions now, GMAT skill level questions. The platform that you're using today to prepare for your test, to prepare for a test, does that give you this level of analysis, this level of feedback, this level of granularity, this level of control as to how is it that you should be, how you're doing vis-a-vis the other students, how is it that you should be preparing? Okay, no input. Are you guys getting that level of feedback today? Okay, good. Um, Larne says, I have not. Okay. All right. So now let's move on to our next section, which is more difficult questions here. Now, two of you had asked some questions with regards to that question in which negative 5.5 was the choice selected by many of you. So let me cover the next section of questions, and then towards the end of the session, I will show you the detailed solution of that one. Okay. I think that was Aditya and somebody else. I don't remember. Okay. All right. So now let's solve this question. I'm going to clear these and yeah, go ahead and click on still solving, please. Okay, let's get some more responses here. Okay, here you go. Go ahead and solve the question. All right, I am going to end the poll now. Last few seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. All right, let's broadcast here. So, only about 1/3 of the class has gotten this question right. Now, let's look at the solution here so that you understand where you faltered. Now, if you think about what this question is saying, once we get this to the format wherein we get a higher order inequality, then it should simply be us applying the wavy line method to solve it. So before you even put pen to paper, just strategize how you're going to be solving it. Okay. So what we do is, so what are we going to do? First of all, what do we know about x? Tell me that. What do we know about x? X is an integer. What else? When we have to select the value over here, what else do we know about x? Less than 5. Good, which x is an integer less than 5. Can it be a negative integer? It can be a negative integer. Good. Now, Shivam said something very important. It can't be 2. Why is that? Why can x not be 2? Yes. Otherwise, it's going to be not defined. Absolutely. Then denominator is going to be equal to 0. So what all do we have? We have that x is an integer. Okay. X has to be less than 5. X can be negative, but x cannot be equal to 2. Can x be equal to 0? So Shivam, next what you said was that x has to be more than 2. Where do you get that from? So when you said x can't be 2, that's correct. But when you said that x has to be more than 2, where are you getting that from? Okay. Aditya, you're saying that x can be 0 base. So again, so Ashwin, you're saying x cannot be 0 because you've already solved it, right? But just based on, let's not worry about solving this right now. Just based on everything, without solving it, what all can you infer from just the information over there? That's where I'm at right now. Because obviously, once you solve the linear, once you solve this higher order inequality, there are going to be more solutions that are going to come out. Absolutely right. Okay. So for sure, what we know is x has to be less than 5. X may be negative, right? There's no restriction on it, but x cannot be equal to 2. That is something that we definitely know. Okay. So Shivam, denominator should need not be more than 0. Denominator can very well be less than 0. Okay. Denominator cannot be equal to 0. That's it. Okay. So again, you have to be very precise. Got it? Okay. So next what we're going to do is we are simply going to convert our this rational inequality into a higher order inequality. For that, what do we need to do? We need to multiply both sides by x minus 2 whole squared because we are multiplying by a positive number here, right? Now, what we do is this is what we get. Now we are going to apply wavy line method. When we do that, what we get is, and sorry about this, we get these 0 points, okay, -2, -3, and 2, okay. And next, what we do is we essentially plot it on our wavy line, on our number line here, and this is the range that we get. -3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to -2, okay. But as Shivam has already said, and a number of you have said, x cannot be equal to 2, which means you have to remove that constraint, which means what we're going to get is these different values over here. Let's remove this part here so that you can, here. Okay, so from this range, you get -3 and -2, okay, because these are integers. From this next range, you do not get 2, you get 3 and 4, which is where there are 4 values. So now tell me, Which step did you guys falter on? Only 5 of you got this question right. So which step did you guys falter on? Obviously, applying wavy line method on higher order equation, that's the conceptual understanding that you need to have. So I'm going to ask which faltering point? Point number one, wherein you could not convert it. Point number two, wherein you did not, wherein you were not able to solve this wavy line method. Point number three, wherein you were not able to put in the constraint. Okay. So Abhishek is saying did not consider the -3 and -2 values. Okay. Applying wavy line method was correct. So good. So Abhishek, again, then it's the constraint issue. Okay. Now observe how while in the easier questions, the questions that we did in the previous section, the constraints were relatively straightforward, positive number, negative number, non-negative, non-positive. Here, the constraint in terms of the range is given in the initial question statement. So, participant, if you were not able to understand how I simplified this, again, that's the wavy line method. Let me show you. So, I've already shown the wavy line method files, right? So, let me just show that link again. Okay, so go through it so that you can understand this method. Okay, so Ashwin, you did everything right, but you included -1. Okay, but if you did everything, you should not have included -1, right? Because that's not within the range, which means you didn't really do wavy line method correctly. So again, I want to make sure that you are applying it the right way. Why is the area between -3 and -2 shaded, but the area between -2 and not shaded in the area that's positive? See, that area is not positive, Ishika. So again, you're asking these questions because you're not 100% sure about the wavy line method. See, the graph over here is below the x-axis, it is below the number line. That is why this is not shaded. What we need is the graph above, because it's positive. We need the range above the number line. That is why the pink areas have been highlighted. Got it? So again, the reason why, so participant and Ishika, both of you need to go through the wavy line method. Okay, so once you do that, you'll understand it. Now, participant, if your question is about how we converted this into this, that is not covered in the wavy line article. So here, essentially what we are doing is we are multiplying both sides by square of the number, because we cannot multiply both sides by x minus 2 because we don't know the sign of x minus 2, because we don't know anything about x with regards to whether x is less than 2 or more than 2. Okay, that's the reason. And if we don't know that, then we don't know whether we have to flip the sign of this inequality or not. So that is the reason why we are multiplying both sides by x minus 2 whole squared. And when we do that, we essentially get x minus 2 above in the numerator. Okay. Now, all of this is explained in our quadratic section module in the course, but that is not available to, that is not part of the free trial. Okay. All right. So all right. So now we are at the last question of this session. So let's solve this question as well. And let me clear the answers. Yeah. So go ahead and click on still solving, please. All right. Go ahead and solve this. All right. I am going to give you 10 more seconds. All right. I'm going to end the poll. So the correct answer here is choice E. Okay. I felt that you guys took a lot longer to solve this question. How was this question? Did you guys get scared when you looked at this question? There's absolute values, there are two variables, a single equation. Did you guys get scared? Again, last question of this session. So let's interact a bit more. Okay. How many of you got scared? Larne got scared. Good. Yes, a little bit, but solving it cleared it. Okay. So again, whenever we get scared, what is it that we do? We take a step back and we translate information, right? So when we take a step back here, what do we see here? Y is equal to modulus of a number divided by some number here. Now, what do we know about modulus of a number? What do we know about modulus of a number? Its absolute value, yes, but what do we know about it? That it's always non-negative. It can't ever be negative. Absolutely. Now, Ashwin, it's non-negative, so it includes zero as well. So important. Good. All right. Now, what can we tell about this um, denominator here? What do we know about this denominator? So numerator is a non-negative number, greater than or equal to zero. Okay. Denominator is always a negative value. Why is it always a negative value? Because it's negative x squared minus 3, right? So it's always a negative value. Got it, everyone? Right? So numerator is always a positive number, is a non-negative number. Denominator is always a negative, which means that negative x squared plus 3, this is going to be always a negative number, which means what is the question asking us? Okay, the question is asking for what value of x will the value of y be greatest. Okay, now what will be the greatest value of y? If y is a fraction whose numerator is always a is always a negative number, right? It is always a non-negative number, and denominator is always a negative number, then what do we know about, then what's going to be the greatest value of y? It's always going to be 0. The greatest y max is going to be, y max is always going to be 0. Now you basically see when, so now you have, if y max is 0, then what is the value of x? X will simply be 5 by 3. That's it. So do you see how easy this difficult question was? Now all these questions are, 700 plus level questions. These are all official questions, not part of your mocks, but these are all questions that are part of your, which are official questions, right? So I want to, so with this, I hope that you've gotten the flavor of what do difficult questions entail. They are not complex at all. Okay, there's not detailed processing that is needed. You don't really have to crunch numbers. Okay, all that's needed is you translate back and forth, you draw inferences, you come up with inferences, and then you do. I mean, in terms of solution here, the processing was as simple as 3x minus 5 is equal to 0, just solving that small a linear equation. But to get to that, you needed to process a lot of information. And that processing is done through these process skills of back and forth translation, of drawing inferences, of understanding constraints, and then figuring out the approach, figuring out what is it that you actually have to solve. Does that make sense? So with this, we come to the end of this session here. Okay. What I want you all to do is, I've shared this PDF with you, okay, which you see on the top here. Okay, I want you all to download that. Now, this PDF has one really complex linear inequalities question, right? I want you to solve that. There are also two detailed questions, which are really must be true type of questions. So I want you to solve those as well on your own. Detailed solutions are part of this PDF. Okay, so that would be your homework. Okay. I also want you to tell me what your takeaways from this session were. And thank you, everyone who has already put in the ratings. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and Reddit, definitely. So let me just send you. So I'll open these links up for you so that you can connect with me there, right? And you can follow me on Reddit as well. And again, these are some inspirational stories if you want to simply look at them and get inspiration for how these students actually prepared and did really well on the test. Okay, PDF link is right here, session presentation. So on the top right hand corner here, right above this chat, Soumya. Um, yes, the recording of this session will be shared in another, I would say, 10 hours. Okay. So yeah. So I would definitely want to get more inputs from you with regards to what you've learned. And I know that there were, so is there any, so Altamash, I think you were the one who wanted more clarity on this thing, right? How to do the processing of one of the equations. So, all right, on inequality changes. Okay, so let me go back and okay, so I think so I'm going to end this session here. So I'm going to stop recording and then